When we think about peace, we often imagine serene landscapes, a quiet mountain temple, a gentle stream, the slow rhythm of deep breaths in meditation. But in real life, peace is rarely found in the absence of noise. It is more often found in the midst of it. Life is messy. People are complicated. And sometimes, the greatest test of our inner calm comes not from the storms outside, but from the people who seem to carry storms within them, those we call toxic. You've met them, the coworker who thrives on drama, the friend who leaves, you feeling drained after every conversation, the relative who always finds a way to turn your joy into their bitterness. These individuals can pull you into their chaos, twist your words, and make you doubt yourself. In the Buddhist view, toxicity isn't just about their behavior, it's about how we respond to it. This is the key difference. You cannot control the storm in someone else's mind, but you can control whether you step into it without an umbrella. The Buddha taught that suffering often comes not from what others do to us, but from the way we attach to those actions, replay them, and give them power over our inner state. Before we dive in, a gentle call to action. If this message resonates with you, if you've ever felt like your peace was stolen by someone's words or actions, stick with me until the end. Share this with someone who needs it, because what you're about to learn could be the difference between letting toxic energy rule your life and reclaiming the stillness you deserve. Let's begin with the first key. Key 1. Master the pause. Toxic people feed on reaction. It's the fuel for their fire. The moment you respond in anger, frustration, or defensiveness, you've given them what they came for. Mastering the pause is about reclaiming your power in the space between stimulus and response. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness teaches us to slow down this space. When you feel triggered, imagine yourself as a still pond. The rock has been thrown, yes, but you choose how many ripples you allow. A deep breath. A silent count to 3. The mental reminder, I don't have to enter their storm. That pause is your shield. I once spoke with a man who worked in an incredibly toxic corporate environment. Meetings felt like battlefields, with certain colleagues waiting for any chance to provoke him. For months, he reacted defending, explaining, over-justifying. It only fueled their attacks. When he began practicing the pause, the game changed. Instead of snapping back, he would sip his tea, nod slowly, and respond after a deep breath. His calmness frustrated them more than his arguments ever did. The toxic person may try harder at first, but over time, the absence of reaction drains their interest. Key 2. Separate the person from the poison. In Buddhist thought, every being has Buddha nature, the potential for wisdom, compassion, and peace. This means that even the most toxic individual is not wholly defined by their behavior. They are not the poison itself. They are a person carrying poison. This shift in perspective matters. When you see them as only the toxic one, you reduce them to your judgment of them. When you separate the person from the poison, you see them as someone acting from pain, ignorance, or conditioning. That doesn't mean you excuse their behavior, but it helps you respond without hatred. An old Zen saying goes, do not draw the sword to kill the fly. Sometimes the most powerful act is to refuse to let another's darkness dictate your own. You can acknowledge the hurt they cause, create boundaries, and still hold space for the possibility that they are more than their worst moments. It's not easy. It requires remembering that their actions often come from wounds you cannot see. But this perspective is a powerful antidote to resentment. Key 3. Anchor yourself in the breath. When you are in the presence of toxicity, your body often knows before your mind does. Your chest tightens, your stomach knots, your pulse quickens. These are signals. You are about to be pulled off center. The breath is the rope that tethers you back to calm ground. In Buddhist meditation, the breath is not just oxygen, it is awareness. It is the anchor that prevents your mind from drifting into the stories, accusations, or manipulations of the other person. Here's a simple practice. When the conversation turns heated, place your attention on your inhale. Feel the air entering your nostrils, expanding your lungs. As you exhale, imagine releasing any hooks they have thrown at you. Each breath is a reminder, I am here. I am safe. I do not need to absorb this. I'll pause here for a moment if. These first keys are already planting seeds of clarity in your mind. Make a mental note to revisit them often. Share them, practice them, and watch how your energy begins to shift even before we get to the rest. Because the power to protect your peace is not something you wait to develop. It's something you build with each mindful choice. Key 4. Set boundaries without guilt. One of the most misunderstood ideas in Buddhist compassion is the belief that to be kind means to be endlessly available. But compassion is not the same as self-sacrifice. The Buddha taught the middle way, not the path of indulgence. Not the path of self-denial, but the path of balance. When you deal with toxic people, boundaries are not walls to keep them out. They are fences with gates you control. You decide when and how they enter your space. You decide how long they stay. You decide what behavior is allowed. The guilt often comes because toxic individuals are skilled at making you feel selfish for protecting your energy. They might say you're cold, ungrateful, or even cruel. But setting boundaries is not a rejection of them as a person. It is a rejection of the harmful patterns they bring into your life. Think of it like tending a garden. If someone tramples over your flowers again and again, it's not unkind to put up a fence, it's wisdom. Without it, nothing beautiful can grow. In practical terms, this might mean limiting how often you answer their calls, declining certain invitations, or ending conversations when they cross a line. You can do this calmly, without hostility, and still hold to your limits. Over time, you'll notice your peace expands because you are no longer letting their storm enter your home. Key 5. Respond. Don't react. In Buddhist philosophy, the difference between reacting and responding is the difference between slavery and freedom. Reaction is automatic. It comes from habit, ego, or fear. Response is intentional. It comes from awareness, choice, and compassion. Toxic people are masters at drawing reactions. They may provoke you with insults, guilt trips, or passive-aggressive comments. When you react, you operate on their terms. When you respond, you operate on your own. Imagine a monk walking through a market and someone shouts an insult. The monk stops, turns, and simply bows before continuing on. That bow is not submission. It is the act of acknowledging the other's humanity without accepting their poison. A response like this leaves the toxic person with nothing to feed on. Here's a practice. When you feel the urge to snap back, silently ask yourself, will what I say reduce suffering or increase it? This question will often stop you from escalating the situation and guide you toward a calmer, more skillful reply, or even no reply at all. Key 6. See the impermanence of the moment. Buddhism teaches impermanence, anicca, as a core truth of life. Every emotion, every thought, every situation is temporary. When you are in the presence of a toxic person, it can feel like their energy will consume your whole day, your whole mood, your whole self. But the truth is, nothing lasts, not even their negativity. This perspective is liberating. You begin to see that their words are just sounds in the air, soon to be gone. Their expressions are just movements of the face, soon to fade. Even your own irritation is a passing wave. You can watch it rise and fall without drowning in it. There's a Zen story of a monk carrying a heavy pail of water up a hill. Another monk mocks him, calling him slow and weak. The first monk smiles and says, "You speak like the wind, it passes, and I continue walking." This is the essence of impermanence, not taking every gust of wind as a storm. When you anchor yourself in this truth, toxic people lose much of their power over you. You realize that they too are temporary visitors in your life, and you are not bound to their storms forever. Before we continue, here's your mid-video call to action. If you found even one of these keys helpful so far, I invite you to pause for a second, like the mindful pause we spoke about earlier, and consider sharing this message. There's someone out there right now feeling trapped in the web of another's toxicity, and you could be the reason they find a way out. 7. Practice loving kindness. From a distance, loving kindness, or metta, is a foundational Buddhist practice. It involves wishing happiness, safety, and peace, not just for those we love, but for all beings, including those who hurt us. For many, this feels impossible when it comes to toxic people. But here's the subtle truth: loving kindness doesn't require closeness. You can wish someone well without letting them close enough to harm you again. This is compassion with boundaries. A practical example: you may have a family member whose presence is consistently destructive. Instead of cutting them out with anger, you can limit contact while silently sending them wishes of healing and peace. This preserves your compassion while protecting your well-being. Over time, you'll find that this practice keeps your heart from hardening. The danger of dealing with toxic people is that, in defending ourselves, we become bitter. Loving kindness is the antidote. It keeps you soft without making you weak. Key 8. Release the need to win. Toxic people often thrive on turning every interaction into a contest. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who gets the last word? The ego wants to win these battles. The Buddhist path invites us to let go of that need. Winning may feel good in the moment, but it often binds you deeper into the toxic dynamic. By refusing to compete, you step out of the game entirely. Sometimes, peace is worth more than being right. The Buddha once said, "Victory breeds hatred. The defeated live in pain. Happily, the peaceful live giving up victory and defeat." This doesn't mean you agree with harmful behavior. It means you stop trying to prove your worth to someone determined not to see it. When you stop needing to win, you discover a quiet freedom. You realize that your peace is not something another person can give or take it. It is yours to guard. T9. Choose silence as a response. In our modern world, silence is often mistaken for weakness. But in Buddhist practice, silence can be the highest form of wisdom. Toxic people expect noise. They expect you to defend, argue, explain, or retaliate. When you answer with silence, you disrupt their rhythm. This isn't the cold silence of punishment. It's the mindful silence of non-engagement. It's the choice to withhold your energy because you recognize it will not be met with openness or understanding. There's a Zen phrase, "Do not speak unless it improves upon silence." When you are confronted with provocation, ask yourself, will my words bring peace or will they deepen the fire? If the answer is the latter, choose the calm of silence and let the storm pass on its own. Over time, you'll find that silence not only disarms the other person, it also preserves your mental clarity. In that space, you can return to your breath, your body, and your center. Key 10. Limit your exposure to their energy. Energy is contagious. Spend enough time around someone anxious, and you may feel anxious. Spend enough time around someone bitter, and bitterness can seep into your own thoughts. The Buddha taught that our environment, kalyana mitta, or spiritual friends, has a profound influence on our path. If you want to cultivate peace, you must choose environments and relationships that nourish it. Sometimes this means creating physical distance from a toxic person, meeting them less often, avoiding certain situations, or stepping away when their behavior escalates. Other times, it means creating emotional distance, even if you must physically be present, remaining polite, but not emotionally invested in their drama. Remember, protecting your peace is not selfish, it is responsible. You cannot help others if your own cup is empty. Key 11. Guard your mind through mindfulness. The mind is the true battleground. Toxic people may plant seeds of doubt, resentment, or self-criticism in your thoughts. Without mindfulness, those seeds grow into stories. You tell yourself stories that keep you trapped in negativity. Mindfulness is the act of watching your thoughts. without becoming them. When a toxic comment echoes in your mind, "You're not good enough," "You're overreacting," you pause and label it. "That's their opinion, not my truth." In Buddhist meditation, thoughts are like clouds drifting across the sky. You don't chase them and you don't push them away. You notice them and you let them pass. In doing so, you prevent their poison from taking root. One practical technique: when you notice a harmful thought triggered by someone, follow it with the mantra, "Not mine." It's a reminder that you don't have to carry what doesn't belong to you. Key 12. Cultivate inner refuge. The final key is the most important. In Buddhism, the true refuge is not found in another person or in circumstances, but within your own awakened mind. When you have an inner refuge, a place of stillness, you can return to no matter what is happening around you. No toxic person can take your peace. This refuge is built through daily practice, meditation, mindful breathing, self-reflection, and acts of compassion. Think of it like building a temple inside yourself. Each moment of mindfulness is a brick. Each act of kindness toward yourself is a supporting beam. Over time, this inner temple becomes unshakable. People may shout outside its walls, but the space inside remains quiet. When you stand firmly in this refuge, you realize something profound. Toxic people may touch your outer life, but they cannot touch your inner freedom unless you hand them the key. And now, you know how to keep that key for yourself. Closing call to action. If this journey through the 12 Buddhist keys has helped you see a clearer path through the storms of toxic relationships, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with a friend who might be struggling. Leave a comment about which key spoke to your heart the most. And remember, you don't need to fight every battle. Some battles dissolve the moment you refuse to step into them. You have the power to protect your peace. You have the right to walk away from storms that are not yours. And you have within you an inner refuge no one can take away. Opening. The reality of dealing with difficult people. Life is not a monastery. Most of us are not sitting on a cushion in a quiet temple, untouched by the noise of the world. We live in neighborhoods, work in offices, go to family gatherings, and interact on social media. And in these spaces we encounter all kinds of personalities, some warm and uplifting, others critical, manipulative, or downright toxic. It's easy to say, just ignore them or walk away. But reality is not that simple. Sometimes the toxic person is your boss. Sometimes they are your parent, sibling, or partner. Sometimes they are someone you have to see daily. This is why Buddhist wisdom is so powerful. It doesn't tell you to escape life. It teaches you how to live peacefully in the middle of it. In Buddhism, the goal is not to control other people's behavior, but to master your own mind and heart in response to it. The Buddha did not promise that the world would be free from difficult people. He promised that through mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, you could live in peace despite them. Before we go deeper, I want to make a gentle call to action. If you've ever had your peace disturbed by someone's words, actions, or energy, commit to staying with me until the end of this journey. And if you feel inspired, share this message with someone who needs it. You might just change the way they experience their relationships, and perhaps their life. Key 1. Master the pause in the space between what happens to you and how you respond. There is a choice. This space is small fractions of a second, but it is everything. Toxic people often try to push you to react instantly, because an unguarded reaction is easier to manipulate. The pause is the foundation of all skillful interaction. In Buddhist mindfulness, this is called sati, the moment of awareness before the mind rushes into automatic habits. Example from Buddhist history. There's a story of a monk who was insulted by a stranger. Instead of replying immediately, the monk closed his eyes and took 3 slow breaths. When he opened them, he smiled and said, "You have given me an insult, but I choose not to accept it. Please take it back." The stranger was speechless. In modern life, The pause might look like taking a sip of water before answering, counting your breath from 1 to 5, saying, "Let me think about that," instead of giving an immediate reply. By mastering the pause, you send a clear message to yourself and to the toxic person that your emotions belong to you, and you will not be rushed into surrendering them. Daily practice. Every morning, spend 2 minutes practicing intentional pauses. Think of someone who frustrates you. Imagine they've said something upsetting, and rehearse taking a slow, deep breath before reacting. Over time, this becomes your natural reflex. Key 2. Separate the person from the poison. It's easy to label someone entirely as toxic and forget that they are more than their worst traits. In Buddhism, we see each person as a mix of wholesome and unwholesome seeds. The problem is not the person, it's the seeds they are watering. If you can see the human being beneath the harmful behavior, you reduce the risk of hatred taking root in your own heart. Hatred poisons the hater most of all. Example: a coworker constantly spreads rumors about you. Instead of seeing them as the enemy, you can recognize that they are acting from insecurity or fear. This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it helps you avoid responding with equal malice. In Buddhist meditation, you might practice saying silently, "This is a person who suffers. This is a person who, like me, wants to be happy, but does not know how." This changes your mental posture. You remain firm in protecting yourself, but you do so without adding more venom into the world. Key 3. Anchor yourself in the breath. Toxic situations trigger the body's stress response. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and your thoughts scatter. This is exactly when you need to anchor in the breath. The Buddha described the breath as the bridge between the body and mind. By focusing on it, you interrupt the spiral of reactivity. Practical exercise. The next time you feel provoked, silently say, "Inhale, I am aware of my in-breath." Exhale, I am releasing tension. Even 3 conscious breaths can lower your physiological stress and bring your mind back to clarity. Key 4. Set boundaries without guilt. In Buddhist ethics, compassion begins with yourself. If you allow constant harm in the name of kindness, you are not practicing compassion, you are practicing neglect of your own well-being. Boundaries are not unkind. They are the recognition that you cannot help anyone if you are depleted. A Buddhist view on boundaries. Imagine your mind as a still pond. If someone repeatedly throws stones into it, the ripples will never settle. Boundaries are the shoreline, keeping the stones from reaching your center. Practical boundaries may include limiting the length of your conversations, declining invitations that put you in toxic environments, ending discussions that become aggressive. When guilt appears, remind yourself, "I am not rejecting the person. I am rejecting the harm." Key 5. Respond. Don't react. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. In Buddhism, this is the essence of skillful speaking in ways that are true, beneficial, and timely. Story: 2 monks were insulted by a man on the road. One monk argued back fiercely. The other bowed and continued walking. When asked why he didn't respond, the calm monk said, "When someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, who does it belong to?" Responding rather than reacting doesn't mean you stay silent. It means you speak from calm, not from anger. Key 6. See the impermanence of the moment. Toxic behavior feels heavy and permanent in the moment, but everything changes. The harsh comment fades. The person may eventually leave your life. Even your own feelings will shift. Remembering impermanence, anicca, is like having a secret doorway out of suffering. You tell yourself, "This too shall pass," and it will. Reflection: when you're in a toxic interaction, silently say, "This moment is passing." It's a way of refusing to let a temporary disturbance create a permanent wound. Key 7. Practice loving kindness from a distance. Loving kindness, metta, is not about letting harmful people close. It's about wishing them well so your heart doesn't. Hardened. From a safe distance, you can send thoughts like, may you be free from suffering. May you find peace. May you learn to love without harm. This protects your compassion while maintaining boundaries. Key 8. Release. The need to win. Toxic people often frame everything as a competition. Letting go of the need to win doesn't mean you agree. It means you no longer waste your peace proving yourself to those determined not to see you clearly. Sometimes, the deepest victory is walking away with your calm intact. Key 9. Choose silence as a response. Silence, used mindfully, is powerful. It denies the toxic person the fuel they want. It gives you time to choose a wise response. And it teaches you that not every arrow needs to be caught. Key 10. Limit exposure to their energy like food. Energy is something you consume. Spend more time with uplifting people, environments, and activities. Reduce the amount of time you spend in toxic company, even if it means making uncomfortable changes. Key 11. Guard your mind. Through mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you notice the seeds toxic people plant in your mind before they grow. When you hear a hurtful comment replay in your thoughts, label it, "That's not my truth." Let it go. Key 12. Cultivate inner refuge through daily meditation, reflection, and kindness toward yourself. Build an inner sanctuary that no one else can touch. This becomes your safe place, no matter what storms rage outside.